Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Spongy Bible Brain Time. This is the daily Beach Church Bible devotion. And as we read through and learn our way through the Bible each year, today we're going to look at three chapters in Genesis 43, 44, and 45. It's near the end of the whole account of Joseph and his brothers and Joseph in Egypt. It's a marvelous account of God's sovereign movement among his people. So in chapter 43, Joseph's brothers return with Benjamin. Remember, Joseph demanded that they bring the youngest brother, and they kept one brother back. And so the brothers show up with Benjamin, but then Joseph is still, paying them back in a way by putting his cup in one of the bags, and then he threatens them again because he accuses them of treachery. And Judah steps in chapter 44 and intercedes for Benjamin. He says, "Take me, but don't take Benjamin. It would, just destroy our father." And then finally in chapter 45, Joseph can't take it anymore. He reveals himself to his brothers. So that's what happened. And I have several conclusions or thoughts that derive from this account of Joseph and his brothers. And I'm assuming that you're reading this, you've read it. I don't need to read it to you. I'm hoping you have a good study Bible with expert commentary to help you understand what you're reading and the context of it, so you don't make any false conclusions. So here are three or four things that jumped out at me. I hope God gave them to me, and I hope they're helpful to you. So here's an example. God is at work and sovereign in the lives of everyone, from common people like Jacob and his sons. They were just common herders, right? Sheep herders. And God's also involved in world leaders, and in fact can take a common person and make them a world leader like he did with Joseph. But the point is, no situation is beyond God's involvement. Now, if you spend too much time reading and watching the news, right, that tells you all of the worst news from right down the street all the way on the other side of the world, and you spend too much time, it can crush your spirit. It can roll right over you. You just have to remember that this sovereignty of God means that nothing is beyond God's control ultimately. And it also means that nothing is beyond the effectiveness of our prayers as Christians. The prayers of a righteous man are powerful and effective, it says in James. We may feel helpless in the face of overwhelming problems beyond our control, but we have action that we can take that can be effective. So that's a good question. Are we praying each day for the leaders at every level of society? Here's a local example. The state of Virginia Democratic Party lawmakers have immediately put into motion a law that would enshrine the killing of unborn babies up to the time of birth, maybe after. I have to read that specifically, but you get the idea. Now, luckily for us, even if they pass it, it's got to come to a vote among Virginia residents. Well, that's an opportunity for us to begin praying right now, not only for legislators, but voters in the state of Virginia, that they'll choose life. It's not beyond God's power that someone who only thinks that an unborn child is a blob of flesh, and that we're just going to get rid of that, and the convenience is the right of the mom, they can change their mind. They can see the truth of that. So we need to pray for that. The prayers of the righteous voter are powerful and effective. So let's remember that. Here's another idea. After reading about Joseph and his brothers, how can we ever look at any broken relationships and assume it will never change, right? Not only can it change, and reconciliation and restoration are possible, since all things are possible with God, but God may, in fact, be using the current brokenness for a larger purpose than we know, just as God did that with Joseph and his brothers. So that loved one who has not spoken to us in years, they may one day do that. Don't stop praying about it. Do you believe that? Here's another idea. Yesterday, my brother Zeb mentioned this when he was talking about Joseph. And when Joseph realizes that God's hand had been in all that had happened to him, when he finally reveals himself to his brothers, that he had no grudge against his brothers. And that's the mark of a spiritually mature person. For God sent me before you to preserve life. I don't know. God is allowing us to go through the pain of brokenness in relationships, but one day it's all meant to preserve life, to preserve that relationship, to heal it. So don't give in to despair about brokenness in your life or in the world. Pray instead to God for healing and restoration. And here's my final thought. Final thought. Final thought today. And this is about the account of Joseph reuniting with his brothers and how it connects with a similar account of their father Jacob when he connected again with his brother Esau after 21 years where they hadn't seen or spoken to each other. Both accounts like this bring me to tears every time I read about it, every time I watch it dramatized on TV. It stirs my heart, it stirs our hearts. It satisfies the hope that we have within us for peace with God, for peace with one another, and for peace in the world. Now, having said that, it brings to mind two competing experiences that we regularly witness when we're watching TV shows and movies. Isn't good always fighting evil, really, on every show? Every TV show, even if it's a comedy, has a protagonist and an antagonist. Even Hallmark movies, good is battling evil, okay? Now, here's the question that speaks to the status of our hearts. Which do we enjoy more? Do we enjoy more watching the hero shooting and stabbing and stomping and killing the very, very bad guy who obviously had it coming and fully deserved to be stopped and killed to protect the innocent, to vanquish evil? Do we like that more, or are we partial to depictions of two former enemies reuniting and becoming friends again? Which is it? Do we like the visceral joy of evil being destroyed more than the warmth of love restored? I confess I like both. And although I do not believe there are people so skilled in self-defense and combat that they're able to fight off 7 other nasty big fighters, who, by the way, thankfully wait in turn one at a time to attack the hero so that the hero can fight them off. Anyway, and at the same time, I'm very grateful for people who sacrifice their safety for a life of law enforcement and in military careers that necessarily demand violence at some point and vanquishing evil and doing it violently. But at the same time, I know that spending too much time watching evil get destroyed instead of praying for the conversion of the hearts and minds of unbelievers, that's counterproductive. It's an uncomfortable question, isn't it? How much time do I spend watching the graphic and violent battle between good and evil as a form of entertainment compared to the time I spend in prayer or taking action in my life in some sort of service capacity in the cause for some good in this world? I'm not discounting our daily effort to follow Jesus all of our waking hours each day in thought and word and deed. That's the first responsibility of every believer. But I think I'm trying to say beware of how we use our entertainment time and its content. If the account of Joseph and his brothers tells us anything, it's that God is sovereign in all things. We should trust that and we should pray toward it. And as I have often said poorly in terms of proper grammar, with God, there ain't never no hope.